Let's see what all the evidence says. Oh my god, sometimes Doran's voice comes off like explosively loud.
Is 100% obvious, and Blizzard essentially confirmed that there will be a big bad in this expansion,
Yes,
but
confirmed.
much like
This
Mists
is
of
true.
Pandaria or even Battle for Azeroth, this
Yes.
evil won't really be known from the start. However,
Okay.
at this point in time, we do have a whole bunch of hints from the Dragonflight
Norse
Alpha and the
Dormu
beta,
is
so
one of
it is
them.
not just our speculation, as the beta has been active for months now, and currently we have about 2 or 3 directions where we can predict the story going towards. So,
Okay.
what is all the evidence that we
Let's
have,
see. Let's
and
see what he
who
thinks the
could be
big
the
bad's gonna be.
ultimate boss of Dragonflight? If you're looking for cheap games at amazing prices, check out this video sponsor,
There you go.
You can get everything from
Video
games to
sponsor,
software,
wonderful.
gift cards, and even get World of Warcraft game time and Dragonflight. You can get an even bigger discount with my code Doran,
Doran gets
so
some
make sure to
questionable
click the
sponsors at
link
times.
in the description below.
Okay.
While this
Let's see.
is a tad bit unusual, it really wouldn't be the first time we didn't know who the final boss of a WoW expansion would be from the start. We've had the same thing in Mists of Pandaria, where Garrosh was mid-expansion, just turned crazy and started a
Right.
civil war and just
Mists of Pandaria
ultimately
is very
infused himself
similar
with
to
old god
Dragonflight, it
essence.
feels.
Then we've had Warlords of Draenor, which was once again Garrosh setting the entire thing up, but ultimately the main enemy was the Burning Legion, and the Iron Horde was just a setup for the story that later transitioned into the next expansion. And most recently, we've had Battle for Azeroth, which was almost entirely just a faction conflict, while Nazat was working in the background, so the faction conflict was really nothing but a setup for the Shadowlands. Now, in my opinion, Dragonflight right now seems to be mostly similar to Mists of Pandaria, and many people have drawn
think it's very
quite
similar
a
to
few
Mists of
parallels
Pandaria,
between
which
these
is a
two
good thing, 'cause I
expansions,
think that
mainly
was an
because we
underrated
have
expansion.
two huge land masses that were hidden by sort of a mist or whatever mechanism. The only difference that is almost certain is that there is not going to be a faction conflict, as Blizzard in an interview 100% confirmed that we won't get anything major ever again, so you can already discount a new BFA or Mists of Pandaria happening. Another difference is that these types of expeditions are just the complete opposites. The Invasion of Pandaria was literally an invasion where both the Horde and the Alliance discover and reach this new landmass, and then just
Angry
wanted to
people
grab as many
showing up.
resources for themselves and artifacts as possible, while at the same time just constantly fighting each other. Right now, the best word to describe the Dragonflight would be an expedition where we are going together with the dragons, both the Alliance and the Horde combined, in order to
Yeah, Alliance and Horde cross-faction, baby. No anger this time around.
aid them and to help Azeroth. So immediately the premise is just completely different. However, let's be real, no
Trim
one
the low
really
DPS,
cares about
kill
just
her.
learning about the Dragonflights and fighting the Centaur and just random native beings on these isles. And Blizzard is aware of this, which is why they, in an interview, confirmed that 100% there will be a big bad of this expansion. It's just that we don't know it immediately.
I'll see how
and
many people
as the
drop
expansion
before we pull.
progresses, this will become more clear. Well, the expansion is coming out in a bit more than a month. We don't really need to wait that much, as the alpha and the beta have been around for months, and we already have some
You've
really
convinced me.
interesting hints on what is going on and who could potentially be the big bad of Dragonflight. So, for the start, I'm going to lay out the most obvious spots for all of you that have been following the news in order to tie in with the ultimate point. As you're aware right now,
I mean, there's always the shot that it's Galakrond, but I think that one's a bit obvious. I feel like Galakrond is going to show up and we're going to fight him, or like go back in time and fight him, some Chromie shit. But I'm not sure exactly that he's going to be the last boss in the expansion.
in 10-0, the main enemy that we are fighting are these guys called the Primalists. We are either fighting them directly or their proxies, as they have influenced
we're going
a
to deal
bunch
with
of
that in the
native
first raid,
species,
though.
but ultimately, these guys are the original dragons that are not exactly so protective of Azeroth and the mortals, and they see the Titans as invaders.
Infinite
that corrupted their
Dragonflight will
species,
100%
and
be a
they
raid. Yes,
have been fighting
100%. That is guaranteed. Norse Domer, all that shit. Infinite Dragonflight, that's going to happen. We've even talked about it before, some data mine gear that clearly references an Infinite Dragonflight.
the dragon aspects ever since.
that's-
They even
that's gonna
have
happen.
something like the dragon
But I don't know if
aspects
that's
of
the
their
final
own, so
boss.
like a pantheon, which are almost equal in power to the dragon aspects, and this ties in with the main Dractyr storyline and a few more questlines. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is that from this point we can extrapolate the most obvious choice for the ultimate villain, and that is Galakrond. You all know him, the big, bad zombie cannibal dragon that was the ultimate bad guy of Azeroth thousands of years ago. That was actually the cause the proto
I think we are going to see him in the
dragon aspects in the first place. Well, he is something of an icon to the primalists, and there are many hints that they seek his return. There is also all the talk about that mysterious energy that corrupted him and just a whole bunch of speculations, but regardless, now his bones are in Northrend, and the actual resurrection does seem a bit impossible. However, and the evident part of Dragonflight is time travel, and it is just ever present throughout the beta, and there is just a ton of foreshadowing all across the Dragon Isles. We have scenarios with Chromie where we're visiting the Pandaran Revolution, the Null War, the Black Empire, and a whole bunch of things, and there is even a thing where we are in an alternate reality at some point in the recent future where Galakrond returns. So, in the case of his survival, I don't think it is possible by conventional means, as the best they can do right now is just turn him into an undead with the bones, which is what the Lich King originally intended to do, but, you know, there's no longer any powerful Lord of the Undead that could do such.
We've had enough undeath,
so
I think, in
death.
Death.
Galakrond could happen to the alternate timeline shenanigans, this time travel thing where they manipulate the time ways and bring him from an alternate timeline to the main one. This is 100% possible, and just based on the lore that is available, as that is pretty much exactly what happened with alternate Gul'dan and Legion, and he was a pretty significant character of the expansion. I mean, we literally just brought him back to the main timeline where he did the entire invasion.
How are we gonna fight Galakrond? His wingspan is like half of Northrend, though. Yeah, I agree. If it's going to be a time-walking thing, I don't know if we're going to become dragons or what. But yeah, the size of Galakrond, I mean, if you compare it to someone like Deathwing, who we saw standing on top of Stormwind, right? Like he was covering half the city when he flew over it. Deathwing was like the size of Galakrond's fingernail. So yes, in-game size reference would be difficult to deal with. I'm not sure how Blizzard would handle that, but I do think we're going to see him in some form.
Possible rebirth of Galakrond that could further be empowered by another force that is
280 Brewmaster.
Furthermore, right now there are about 2 other scenarios that are based on at least some type of evidence for the ultimate big bad.
Please no Eye of Eternity Dragonflight
would be Morozond. You all probably know this storyline already, but this is the corrupted version of the dragon aspect of Dormu, the aspect of time
Dormu, Morozond, Infinite Dragonflight. That is definitely going to show up. I think that's a guarantee at this point.
This is sort of a fate that he knows will
We've already seen them in game before, right? We did this dungeon. Caverns of Time. You go do this dungeon. We've seen the Infinite Dragonflight before. I think there is 100% chance of them showing up in the in Dragon Isles.
Already in Dragonflight, and there are quest lines where he talks about the possible future of Morozond, which is almost certainly foreshadowing.
Well, have fun, Sam. See you later. You're going to bed already, Sugar Dust? All right, we'll see you.
Honestly doubt, though, Morozond would be important to be a final boss himself, so this could possibly tie in with the previous point where Morozond could just be used as a tool to bring Galakrond, and maybe ultimately with some other power behind it.
We have a realm to destroy.
Incredible Games, thank you for the follow and welcome to our Scourge. Welcome, welcome.
All that powerful or just really interesting for the player base to be the ultimate ending of this new expansion. Now, the last point that is also based on hints from the actual beta are, you guessed it, the old gods. It is already a minor quest line, but the Twilight Scanner Clan, their servants
haven't had enough to break yet from BFA.
And they're already manipulating their way.
I mean, the thing is, the Infinite Dragonflight is old god corruption, right? Like, that's why it happens. Dormu gets corrupted from the old god whispers and all that shit, creates the Infinite Dragonflight. Okay, that's fine, but I don't need an old god boss. Again, right now, it's too soon. Too soon. Save some of the tentacle porn for later, please.
There could be a 5th old god, the most powerful out of all of them, that is yet to be revived. This could be Zealotet, the artifact that you're all familiar with. If you want to learn more about this in detail, I have an entire video on this theory. However, this is also a really big possibility,
we didn't get to see
really, why else would old god servants somehow reach and infiltrate the Dragon Isles as early as 10.0 if they don't plan to do something quite big? Personally, honestly, doubt we will get an old god final boss, as we already had Nazalt, and that was pretty
Yeah.
underwhelming to say the least. But once
Yeah.
again, this storyline could
They
be
did
used
N'Zoth
as a
wrong.
jumping point to maybe introduce the Warlords, which are still the ultimate villains of the Warcraft universe
Maybe.
that we have never ever seen before. Additionally, it is possible that all three of these points could be involved into one, which could be spread out across the different patches. So,
That's
now to
what-
sum it up,
that's-
we
that's a
have
very likely
evidence
thing,
and
I think.
foreshadowing for three big villains being relevant in Dragonflight: Galakrond, Zormu, and the Old Gods, or maybe the Warlords. Now, an additional point we could talk about is something just entirely different. However, at the moment, this is a bit more ambiguous, as we don't have anything relevant in the actual beta, so this hardly counts as evidence. We know that Azerite and the World Soul are somehow heavily tied to the Dragon Isles, and
Yeah.
we know the Titans really value this place due to the settling of the dragons here and just building all the facilities. So
True.
it is entirely possible that a completely new force may be involved here, which could be a continuation of the Shadowlands storyline, and that cliffhanger the jailer left us with, the big what is to come and this divided universe stuff. It is entirely possible that we could learn something completely brand new about Azeroth, first one involvement, and there could be another force or new knowledge about the World Soul which could just change everything that we know of. In this case, it is really hard to predict what person, figure,
It
or
is
character
really,
would be
really
the
hard.
ultimate boss, but this could heavily
But-
involve the World Soul and that long-awaited awakening of Azeroth. Furthermore, people are discussing Terrellian and the Light Invasion.
Weren't there conversations that Azeroth would be involved, like the spirit of Azeroth or awakening of Azeroth would be involved in this expansion? For some reason, I remember hearing that.
But really,
Could be
right
wrong,
now,
but
nothing in the Dragonflight
probably
beta
will be
indicates him turning bad. And while this could be a possibility in the future, maybe in the next expansion, I honestly doubt this will be happening in Dragonflight. Thank you for watching. Check out what an update in
Another
Silver
great
would look
video.
like, and also
I
check
love
out Notes
Doran,
Academy
man.
for videos of
Doran's the
real-world
best.
history. See you next time.
Even though some of his videos go on the kind of speculative side at times, I just love, I like lore speculation. I enjoy thinking about what could be next and what's going to happen.